My first company was called Learnection, which was a terrible name because you probably still don't even know what it was. It was a combination of learn and connection, so that's what it was. And the idea was to help increase parental involvement in elementary schools and increase school outcomes by connecting parents to the classroom better. So this was in 2000, kind of one of these internet connection ideas. So there were many problems with it. One was it was 15 years too early. Like my kids now are in elementary school and still don't have something to the extent that we were building back then. And the reason for that is because schools move at a very slower pace than the rest of the world. And as a result, not only was the idea too early, but the sales cycle was super long. You needed a lot of money to sell into these kind of things. That would be the key part of the business, the distribution strategy, which I completely missed. So that's another big problem. Third big problem is I hired all my friends from school who were very smart, but not good employees. So ultimately, I spent all my friends and family money and my own and went broke at the end of like 2 years. Then I tried to sell that business, wasn't successful, but joined a nonprofit in Massachusetts that was doing something similar. They were basically doing exactly the same thing. That's why I tried to sell it. But they had a $11 million Massachusetts line item to develop this. So I worked with them for a year. Ultimately, with the market crash in 2001, their budget went away with a lot of things, and I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. So I left and then started another company. Actually started a series of companies with a business partner I met. We started 6 different things, and the lesson learned from there was we didn't stick with any of them, and they were all pretty good ideas. So we did an early version of Retail Me Not. We did an early version of Constant Contact, kind of MailChimp thing. We did a early email client, kind of like Gmail, what that became. All of these things we developed to a point where the product was working and we were getting some feedback, but none of it took off. And so we just gave up. I had randomly done this side project related to social networking and names and finding old friends and classmates that did have an immediate takeoff, and so then we just focused on that. I mainly ran it myself, wrote every line of code, did all the customer support, accounting, etc. And despite having an uncle in Silicon Valley and spending a summer there, I moved back to Boston and then just completely did my own thing for the next 6 years. I was completely disconnected even from the entrepreneurial community in Boston and MIT, which was definitely a mistake. And the lessons learned there was a lot. One, we never really focused on product and product engagement. So the product was, it never really hit repeat usage in the way that you would want to see for a really scalable company. And interestingly, I had the opposite problem that most people have with getting traction. So most people spend a lot of time on product and get the product right and don't have any distribution strategy. I had the distribution strategy right from the beginning, but we literally didn't have a product when we started getting lots of people through the system. And we figured out what the product was, and then we still keep focusing on the distribution strategy and never really focused on the product. So as a result, at the end of it, we didn't really have a great product, and that's ultimately why we ended up selling it when we had the chance. Because turning it into something at that point would have been very difficult. A second lesson was, because we kind of got into it happenstance, neither of us were very interested in the product. It wasn't something we were passionate about. I didn't want to spend my life working on this social networking thing. I don't have a Facebook account today. I'm not a big social networking person. I ultimately realized that if you're going to start something, the time scale of these successful companies are on the order of a decade. And so you're going to need to spend a decade of your life on it. And do you really want to do that? I didn't want to do it in that company. But I decided whatever I was going to do next, I would want to do that.